Hello guys, a pleasure to see you. It's so important to recognize that we are going to do a kind of work which is different than always we do. Obviously, we don't have other people now, but you are looking at me and paying attention about how to explain our class. Unfortunately, about the kind of illness that we have around the world with this kind of virus, the idea is to do another kind of class. Today we are going to use a tool which allow about the technology. So thank you to be here, and I recommend you concentrating a kind of explanation, but the most important, leave the language. Try to understand and leave the language is one thing that I guess. Well, my students, if you remember, continue with our program, we work about the conditionals. Then remember that part. Conditionals. Remember some days ago we were working with that we called the first conditional. Remember? The first. And we practiced some days ago about that way. Remember the using of conditional is only give options that people have in their life with some activities that maybe they're possible but depend on other situation. So today we go and work with the second conditional. So welcome to second conditional in English. Similar to the first conditional, if you remember a little time, we're using the expression if. Remember the first conditional. Using if, we use a clausal in a present. And the consequences of this, the consequences that we put in the future. This is the first conditional time. I give you one sentence that you can remember. Example, if you practice English, is normal this, that you practice English, you will get good grades. Obviously, it is normal, happen, it is possible. For that reason, it's called first conditional. But now remember that we study not the first, we go to the second. But try to remember the structures because they get a similar way. The differences is the idea, what I want to show, what is my intention, what I don't want to do or not to do. Check this part. Well, and this order of ideas, we have the second conditional, and in the first time, obviously we're using this particle if, which is a kind of condition. Now, if the second conditional, we have to know what is the meaning, what is the intention in a second conditional. In a second conditional is an imaginary situation. Imaginary. That is not possible to happen the action. It's complicated. It's not easy to happen. So that idea given that is imaginary in the present or in the future. The action is not probable. The action is complicated to happen. This is the difference that we have with the first conditional. Well, it is imaginary. Maybe I give you one example in Spanish. Thinking that example in Spanish to try to get it. Something like, si mi tío tuviera, sería mi tía. Analyze this part. If you think into this, it's very complicated happen. At the same time, we have to express it. How explain and work in there? They have some structures. The first time is the past tense, and the past tense is the conditional part. And the second part, joined by the comma, is in the conditional with would and the principal verb. This is the consequences. Check again and concentrate. Two parts, the conditional part and the second, which is the consequences. First part is in past tense, then condition. And the consequences using would like conditional verb plus the principal verb. Put one example using this. Is this. If you look the verb in simple past, if you had money, analyze had is in past tense, in simple past. If you had money, comma, looking that I give an example in Spanish, tuviera, tuviera is the first part of this. If you had money, consequences, you would buy a house. Look the second part of the consequences. You would buy. Depend the condition. But the condition is complicated because you don't have money. When do you have the money? We don't know. Maybe you get the lottery. You get a balotto. But in this moment, real, we don't have. In that case, you don't have money. When you have the money, it is possible you get there. So it's imaginary situation. In that case, the two parts that I give you. First part of the conditional is in simple past. And the consequences using would that give the second part of this, which is called consequences. So analyze. If I had money, if you get money, you would buy a house. When can you buy a house? When you had a money. When you had a money, complicated to get it. So this is the idea that we have to express or refer in the second conditional tense. And that we have saw that it is important to recognize. Dividing structure, which is condition, always get relation with if. If indicate the conditional. And the second part would indicate the consequences. Look this way. Look the order. If you had money, you would buy a house. But attention to it. Attention to it. I got this way put in long way because I get out with that. Sorry because the board is so small, but okay, I try to explain that again. The example is, if you had money, that is the first part, and you put a comma, then you say the second part. What happened? You would buy a house. Okay? So checking. Simple past, conditional would with the verb buy. You give it a half. It is important you have in mind that sometimes can you use it and change the position? No problem. Can you express first the consequences and second the condition? For example, in that case, can you say, you would buy a house? This is the consequences. You join no but a comma. You join with that condition. If, and immediately get the second part. If you had a money. Not confused. It's the same way. The difference is you start it by consequences and after give the condition. And the first time you give the condition and after put the consequences. The difference is in the first time join by the comma. In the second connect with if. But after if, the conditional form. So you say, if you had money, you would buy a house. You would buy a house if you had money. Is the structure that you have to work in it. So in the real classes, I have to ask into people and try to practice and give me examples and examples. But today is complicated because we don't have people to hang in the air and do a participation. But I help you try to give me exactly work and doing in a practice for it. Because giving so and applying in the real life sometimes when you do it. Maybe these kind of exercises are using in kind of topics like Miss Universe. In Miss Universe, when the the finalists, the 12 or 10 finalists of Miss Universe, they get some kind of questions. And that kind of questions are working using this second conditional. It's asking to a girl, if you had money, Miss Colombia, what would you do? This is the way that working with the second conditional. So it's important to have in that. We put more examples. Okay? We put more examples. When you're using the verb to be, in past tense, you recognize using was and were. But in the second conditional, recommend using always were with the verb to be. Yes? Normal giving to give suggestions or recommend. Example, you say, if I were you, is the first sign. If I were you, then you say, I would change. And look at this, because you're giving some time using the simple past and using the second consequences with would. And you say, if I were you, I would change. All of this is applying in this kind of the second conditional part. That we they have one another. Using an equation, remember, where using like a past tense of to be with all the noun that gets on this weight. Checks away. Yes, if I were you, I would change. Then I ask an question. What would you do if, and you get the last question. What would you do if, did I say? What would you do if you met a famous person? What would you do if you met a famous person? Past tense, inconditional. Looking, what would you do if you met a famous person? Maybe you say, okay, if I met a famous person, I would talk with him or with her. I would ask him for a signature. Yes, in different situations that I have that. But it was condition, if you met, but you not met at the moment. Do you not met tomorrow? It is probability, it's imaginary, happening in your brain, but it's complicated to happen and the way to occur at the same time that you want. So this is the idea of the second conditional. That way. Yes, when the action is imaginary, it refers that it's very complicated to happen in the present or in the future. Using these two parts similar to the first conditional. The differences are the tenses. Remember the example. Si mi tía tuviera, sería mi tío. Si tuviera plata, compraría una casa. There is a kind of conditional that I have on this in the second conditional part. Now, the idea is, you with this, try to enter in a practice, try to do some kind of this, and thinking about that way. There are some exercises that you have to do to show in it. Maybe do a video when you imagine you are in Miss Universe, prepare some questions that you imagine you get that Miss Universe and asking for it. Miss Portugal, Miss Sweden, Miss Germany, what would you do if, and you put this kind of conditional to get is imaginary and some way that is, yes? What would you do if we continue with this virus? So it is a kind of question that we have to get into this part that is called second conditional tense. Okay, my students, I hope you got it so clear. If you get some question, something that you not getting it, first of all, with the practice. And second way, you asking to me because I'm going to be online and then I kind of asking, maybe giving the answer to you. So I hope you're using this second conditional in the life. And remember something that we use in a championship and a Miss Universe and some kind of this, can you use it and apply it? Students, thank you so much. You're very kind.